that I'm working to bring forward to the United States Congress, to get Congress working again for the American people and for the future of this country. I look forward to continuing this discussion. Thank you.
Very good. Salute. A minute to opening remarks.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you, Kristen and the Goleta Chamber for this opportunity. As you read, I'm a son of a working family, working class family. My father was a miner, then a farm worker. I'm proud to have been the first in my family to go to a four-year university, work my way through college. I'm proud to have had a long public service record, starting with my years in the United States Marine Corps and my past 12 years working in county government. I'm proud of having worked in a bipartisan way to achieve many solutions to the problems our community has faced. We have the highest rainy day reserve in the county's history, the highest bond credit rating in the state of California. We have invested $100 million over the next 10 years in our infrastructure. We've provided health insurance to many needy children here in our county. I'm proud of that bipartisan record. And I know what it's like to struggle from my own personal story.
Good.
I want to go to Congress to make sure that every working middle-class family has the same opportunities.
Thank you, Salute. We're going to have 3 questions, the format you should be used to by now. Gentlemen, for the first, all 3 questions, you'll have 2 minutes for your response, and watch Courtney there for your cue as to when to stop. Question number 1, we're back to water again. Every one of you needs to be asked about this. We'll start with water. California, as you know, as the state mandates water, a reduction in water consumption, it's resulted in higher rates and water rights taken from some property owners. Let's start with Salud. When I ask you, what can you do if you're in Washington to help this region's water problem from back there in the nation's capital?
Thank you. Well, the most important thing Washington can do is really to provide incentives so that local jurisdictions can work together. Purveyors. We're all fragmented as a purveyor community throughout the Central Coast and throughout the state. We need to be able to come together to put together water security plans.
Central Coast to Washington, D.C., and therefore this has been my #1 issue through the course of this entire campaign. Where we are today is a lack of foresight from past and current politicians and investment directly in infrastructure and things that yield a return for taxpayers. As somebody who grew up in the private sector and building a business, it's necessary that we make investments in things that actually yield a return, that don't raise rates and fees on families around the Central Coast, because that adversely affects our bottom line. We need solutions, and solutions means we need water. We need to make investments in 21st century technologies like desalination, water treatment facilities, and increasing capacity in reservoirs in the long term so that during wet years we have the ability to store water. We need a long-range water policy in California and on the Central Coast. It's my goal to be steered to the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and specifically the Subcommittee on Water and the Environment. Through this, we will be able to move forward to streamline the process in public and private partnerships and to leverage that to ensure that we do get those investments. And that's my passion. We need to do this. We need long-range solutions for water. It will help all the folks who spoke here before, and it's something that I will work to do my first year as your representative.
Very development related, Justin, we'll lead with you, and Salute second. All over the state, it's no great surprise to people in business who have to deal with government to learn that businesses are leaving California at an alarming rate, and are taking high quality employees, young and experienced alike, with them. Austin, Texas, Oklahoma City, Phoenix, parts of the great Southwest. This is a serious issue, and not only are businesses leaving, but the great unspoken or unknown problem is startup businesses are nowhere near what they used to be. They're finding
love your passion. And I
want a round of applause. No, I am passionate. I see too many businesses struggling.
And we feel it every single day as business people here on the Central Coast. I mean, it adversely affects the job climate here on the Central Coast for the startup entrepreneurs, the visionaries, those that are graduating from college, that are looking to manifest the vision that they've created, to people like yourselves in this room who have worked to build a model here in California that employs people, that creates jobs, that improves the economic vitality of the area. It's difficult when you have regulatory arms and unelected bureaucrats that are imposing and essentially legislating from the federal level different policies that adversely affect the business community and our economic vitality. That's why it's necessary for Congress to get working again for the American people and doing their duty and their job and their responsibility of legislating. Get back to governing, rein in the regulatory burdens from the executive branch that are adversely affecting small businesses throughout our community to create more economic growth, more jobs, more revenue moving forward. That's going to have to happen through sunset mandates to bring forward policies that were created in the past to be reviewed back before Congress. Once again, to separate the bad from the good, to see what's working, what's not working, and the economic impacts. I support policies like the REINS Act, where if there is any regulation that is issued out that has a potential economic impact of over $100 million on our community, it has to come before Congress with an up and down vote. It's important that we have people that are connected to folks that are being adversely affected by these regulations to have that voice for us in the United States Congress once again, so that we can improve the policies that are affecting us, not unelected bureaucrats.
Salute. The 10 scariest words in English language are, I'm from the federal government and I'm here to help. Is there anything you think you could do back in Washington?
Let me start, Keith, by reminding you we're still the Golden State, and we're the 6th largest economy in the world. And many people still desire to come to the Central Coast because we are a very special community. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy. Everybody knows that. And the best thing the federal government can do is make sure that small businesses have more access to capital, so that our businesses could flourish and create more jobs. We need to make sure that we are providing tax relief to small businesses so that they can better prosper in our community. We need to make sure that we are investing, the federal government can invest with the state of California and local communities like ours to make sure that broadband continues to flourish in our area, to help our economic engines. We need to make sure that we're also investing in new employment sectors, such as renewable energy employment sectors, to make sure that we transition to a renewable energy economy and that we train those fossil fuel employees that are going to come to that new economy. More importantly, we need to make sure that we are providing grant resources to the 2 most important universities in our area, UCSB and Cal Poly. We need to make sure that they're getting the support so they could continue to flourish and turn out a skilled, educated workforce so that our businesses could flourish locally and have that employment pool that they so depend on. That's what the federal government could do for our area.
Thank you, sir. Speaking of federal government, it'll be our last question, and this again is a 2-minute response. Salud will go first. I have a lobbyist friend in Washington that says that city is 535 bulls in search of a china shop. When you look at the House and the Senate, there's dysfunction back there. Can you do anything as a freshman member of Congress to maybe help break the gridlock and eliminate the dysfunction? And how would you go about it?
Thank you very much, Keith. Well, first of all, I've never worked in Washington, but let me tell you what I have done. Locally, in my service in county government, I've been able to work across the aisle. Again, we've done some really great things in a bipartisan way. The highest rainy day reserve, we've invested in our infrastructure. We've provided health care to children. We've developed a truancy program in a bipartisan way with our schools, the district attorney. We went from 4,000 truant children to less than 50 needing an intervention. I have a track record of working across the aisle, developing those relationships to get things done. And I hope to be able to go to Washington to do the same thing that I've done in my public service and in county government, to achieve that common ground and the relationships you need to forge to collaborate on legislation so that we move the ball forward and that we don't focus on party, but we focus on how to bring about solutions for the American people, for our country, to get beyond this partisanship that we have all come to detest.
Thank you. Justin, if you agree with the premise that there's gridlock and dysfunction back there, what could you do about it as a freshman member of Congress?
This ultimately is the reason why I decided to run for Congress. I did serve in Washington, D.C. under a senior member of Congress. It was my responsibility to observe and assess how public policy was adversely affecting or positively affecting our country and the circumstances. What I found is that there is a lot of empty rhetoric. There is a zero-sum game of winner take all between either political party, and the biggest losers in this equation is the rest of this country and the future of this country. It's just as bad as you think. To say that working across the aisle and nonpartisan Board of Supervisors of 5 gives you credentials to serve in a body that has 535 members is kind of naive in my opinion. What you have is a number of folks that are more concerned about their next election than they are the policies that affect the rest of this country. We need a Congress that works for us. We need to reform it systemically. The baseline there is the budget. The second biggest priority outside of representing your constituency is the budget. Oversight and management of taxpayer dollars and how those dollars are being spent. We need to improve upon this. Goleta has a biennial budgeting system, a 2-year budget system. This is something that we should implement in Congress to provide better oversight and management and create a greater discourse and debate on how those dollars are being spent so that we ensure that people are actually yielding a return on those dollars. It'll actually improve the discourse and reduce the partisanship. We need to move to a single subject rule in Congress so that every single policy that is ever voted on is only relative to that one topic, so that we ensure we're, again, mitigating the politics that is associated with the policy and get back to governing once again. These are policies that need to be implemented into the institution of Congress to get it working again for the American people and for the future of this country. It'll strengthen the institution and give us voices that will work for us.
Justin, thank you very much. It's a wrap-up time for each of you, right? Okay, then you've got 1 quick minute again to wrap up. Justin, we're going to have you give your closing comments. What do you want the crowd to hear?
Sure. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'm honored, I'm grateful, I'm humbled by the opportunity to have the responsibility on my shoulders to represent all of you, the United States Congress. This election is going to be the most important election that we have had here on the Central Coast in over 2 decades. It will determine the future of governance, not only here on the Central Coast, but in the United States Congress. Given what's happening atop the ticket, what we need more than anything is a functional Congress that is working for the American people again and today. That's my goal and my focus, is to get that body working for us so that we can create a leaner, more efficient, more effective institution for the American people that can create economic growth and more jobs for the future, to make investments that yield a return for taxpayers here and now and for the future. I am very much focused on doing what's right for us on the Central Coast. This has never been about red or blue to me. This is about making a difference and a positive impact. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
Thank you, Justin. Salute.
Thank you very much, Keith. Well, I've really appreciated going up and down the Central Coast and meeting with residents from all walks of life and hearing what's important to them. And I hope to be able to earn their trust and their vote so that I could represent them in Congress. I think when you look at my service, you do have a track record of getting things done. You have a track record of working in a bipartisan way. And I think that also is reflective in my endorsements. The entire City Council for the City of Goleta has endorsed me. Republicans and Democrats have endorsed me. And I hope to be able to continue traversing the Central Coast in the remaining weeks, listening what's important to them, and working hard to be accessible, to be a good listener, and to provide great constituent service once I'm elected to represent them in Congress. Thank you so much.
And a full round of applause.